Have you ever felt like you're constantly being pulled in two directions? Like you want to be productive, but then you feel like you're neglecting your family. So you start to be fully present with your family and you feel like you're falling behind around the house and with other obligations that you have to take care of. You're trying to answer emails, but your child wants to show you a Lego creation. You're folding laundry, but someone needs help with homework. You're making dinner while breaking up an argument in the living room. It's exhausting. If you've ever wondered how to balance it all as a busy mom, today's episode is for you. Welcome to Conquer Mom Stress, the podcast that helps you stress less and enjoy motherhood more. If you've ever crawled into bed at night completely exhausted, but still feel like there's so much left to do, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Jill Gokel, and I believe that motherhood is meant to feel joyful, not exhausting. Together, we'll uncover what's really fueling your stress and give you the practical tools to conquer it so you can finally feel like the confident mom you were made to be. Also, if you have a specific question or issue you're stressing about, head over to jillgokel.com/ask to submit your question. And who knows, you might just be featured in an upcoming episode so you can get practical, real-world solutions to the exact challenges you're facing. One afternoon, my son wanted to show me his Magnetel creation. He'd spent hours working on it, but I had to wrap something up on the computer before I could stop for a 20-minute showcase of his creation. The next thing I knew, an hour had passed, and I was running short on time to start supper. So when he came in again to ask if I was ready, I said I would come once everything was cooking and didn't need my attention anymore. But then my phone buzzed with a text that led into a long texting conversation back and forth. 5 minutes turned into 20, and eventually my child quietly walked away and started building something new. Man, that moment stayed with me because I realized that even though I was physically at home, mentally I was not present with my kids. Have you ever experienced that? Where your body is with your family, but your brain is somewhere else? Thinking, planning, remembering, managing, carrying the invisible mental load of motherhood. Whether you work outside the home, work from home, or caring for your family is your full-time work, every mom is juggling something. Today, we're going to talk about why that feels so difficult, what science says about switching between productivity and connection, and how you can build healthier expectations that leave room for both accomplishment and joy. As a mom, you have to constantly switch from work mode to mom mode. This balancing act is a struggle, though, because the reality is mom mode is work mode. As a mom, you have to wear two full-time hats whose primary roles have conflicting goals. One primary role's goal is task completion, which typically covers your family's physical well-being. That's things like cleaning your house, making meals, helping with homework, bill paying, activity scheduling, and all the things. Your other primary role's goal is connection, which covers your family's emotional well-being. That's things like spending quality time together, playing games, talking, addressing behavior, and helping navigate social interactions, otherwise known as sibling squabbles. Maslow's hierarchy of needs shows just why these conflicting roles make it so hard for moms to balance everything in motherhood. Every person has physical and emotional needs that are constantly overlapping and needs to be met at the same time in order for them to survive and thrive in life. So worrying about how to juggle keeping the house clean and playing with your kids happens because these both fall into Maslow's categories. A clean house is a physiological need because it provides shelter to your child, and it's a safety need because a clean house is a safe house. Whereas playing with your kids satisfies a love and belonging need, as well as an esteem need because your child feels appreciation from you. Physical needs and emotional needs are both real needs. Both matter, and both can feel urgent, which leaves you feeling like you're constantly choosing one important need at the expense of another, which causes stress, and even worse, can make you believe the lie that you're failing at motherhood. So the problem is that both productivity and connection feel connected to your children's well-being. Cleaning isn't separate from caring. Cooking isn't separate from loving. And scheduling appointments isn't separate from being a good mom. These tasks are expressions of love. And of course, playing with your kids is a way to show your love. Listening to them, comforting them, talking with them, being emotionally available to them are all expressions of your love and care. So you're left stuck between two equally powerful desires to take care of your child and to connect with your child. But the real kicker is that you feel like you have to do these simultaneously, perfectly, and non-stop. So then you're left feeling guilty while working because you're not connecting. But on the flip side, you feel guilty when you're connecting because you're not addressing their physical needs. So you never fully feel present in either role. Here's where Maslow becomes especially interesting for moms. The brain is designed to pay attention to needs that could affect survival, safety, and well-being. So when you see a messy environment, no meal for supper, or an overdue appointment, your brain interprets that as something that needs fixed to protect your child. On a survival level, those issues are more urgent than listening to your child read you a book or play a game of Uno. So on a primal level, you are naturally drawn to being productive and knocking things off your to-do list. But your deep desire is not just to ensure your children survive. You want them to thrive. And that's where you feel the pull to do things to connect and care for them emotionally, because those are needs that help them thrive. Can you see how balancing productivity and connection creates such internal conflict and stress? So you find yourself switching back and forth between these roles constantly throughout the day. Unfortunately, the human brain isn't designed to instantly shift between completely different roles. Studies on task switching have consistently found that people become slower and make more errors when they frequently alternate between tasks rather than completing one before moving on to the next. So the brain spends time reorienting itself, remembering where it left off, refocusing attention, and reestablishing momentum. Those seconds add up through the day. For moms who may switch tasks dozens or even hundreds of times a day, that mental switching cost becomes exhausting. Role shifting requires massive mental energy. Your brain isn't like a computer that instantly closes one app and opens another. Instead, it's more like a stage crew, changing the set between scenes in a play. Every time you switch roles, from cleaning to helping with homework, from answering an email to listening to your child, from paying bills to comforting a hurt child, your brain has to reset the stage. So when you're focused on a task, your brain has to literally turn one mental program off. Because when you're focused on a task, your brain activates a particular network of neurons. For example, while writing an email, your brain is concentrating on language, problem solving, planning, memory, attention. But then when your 4-year-old walks in crying because her brother took her toy, your brain can't simply add comfort child onto the same mental program. It has to stop one process before fully engaging another. And that takes effort. Think about driving on the interstate. If you're going 70 miles per hour, you can't instantly turn onto a side street. You have to slow down, change lanes, and then turn. Well, your brain works similarly. So after turning off one mental program, then your brain has to load an entirely different mental program. So now your brain has to activate completely different skills. Instead of logical thinking, it shifts to emotional regulation, empathy, reading facial expressions, patience, social interaction. Each role requires different brain networks. That's why it feels hard to go from spreadsheets to finger painting, or from paying bills to pretending to be a dinosaur, or from cleaning the kitchen to genuinely listening to your teenager. It's not because you don't love your kids, it's because your brain is changing gears. And every time you switch tasks, your brain has to remember where you left off, hold the new information, suppress thoughts about the previous task, and figure out what comes next. Each switch taxes your working memory, leaving fewer mental resources available for the new task. And what's really tough is that even after you physically stopped one task, part of your attention remains attached to it, thinking about the task in the background. How many times have you been playing a board game with your kids and find that part of your brain is still thinking about the laundry, the email, the grocery list, tomorrow's appointment? So although you're physically present, mentally, you're divided. That's one reason that moms suffer from mom guilt, because you were playing with your kids, but deep down, you know you weren't really there. But that's normal. It's that part of your attention simply hasn't caught up yet. Balancing roles is especially hard for moms because most jobs involve switching between a handful of roles. However, motherhood involves switching between dozens. In 1 hour, you might be a chef, nurse, referee, teacher, chauffeur, counselor, accountant, housekeeper, employee, wife, event planner, snack distributor, prayer warrior. Every role asks your brain to think differently. No wonder you're tired, exhausted. Motherhood requires constant cognitive shifting. This is why boundaries matter. It's one reason that even short periods of focused work or focused family time can feel so refreshing. Because when you give yourself permission to stay in one role for a while instead of bouncing back and forth every few minutes, your brain uses less energy switching and more energy engaging. I'm not talking about boundaries where you say no more or where your kids give you uninterrupted time. I'm talking about internal boundaries, like setting impossible expectations for yourself. You know the ones, the expectations that you should be productive all day, patient all day, available to your kids all day, organized all day, having fun with your kids all day, calm all day, present all day. Man, that is not realistic. It's not even human. When your expectations are impossible, your brain experiences every unfinished task as failure. And your desire to complete the task fully competes with the desire to fill your child's needs when they interrupt your task. And the result? Mom guilt, stress, and self-criticism. You finished a day believing you weren't enough because your expectations made it impossible to achieve success or to balance the needs of the moment. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 says, "There is an appointed time for everything, and a time for every affair under the heavens. There is a time to work, a time to rest, a time to clean, a time to laugh, a time to accomplish, and a time to simply enjoy your family." You don't have to do everything all at once. God created seasons for a reason. So we're going to create seasons in your day that are flexible enough to balance whatever the wind blows at you. That begins with creating boundary checkpoints for every task. Every task you do has a dozen or more steps to it. Think about cleaning the kitchen. There's emptying the dishwasher, putting dirty dishes in the dishwasher, hand washing items, throwing trash away, putting away miscellaneous items from each surface, which in itself is multiple steps, wiping the counters down, and even more. When your child wants your attention, it can feel like you need to complete the entire kitchen cleaning before you can pause. But if each step was a checkpoint of a task completed, suddenly you can walk away from the task mid-cleaning because you are at a checkpoint stopping point. You have finished a step. This one concept reduces mom guilt and stress. Plus, it helps you close your attention to the task because it's not left unfinished in your subconscious. You're able to move away from your work mode role with ease and step into the role of mom mode. Now remember, even moving into mom mode needs a healthy boundary set for you to feel free to move back into work mode. Tell your child you'll play with them for 30 minutes and then you need to get back to cleaning. Or invite them to clean with you while you visit with each other. You can have them move on in their homework until they have all their questions ready so you can tackle them all at once. Or tell yourself you'll spend time comforting them when they're hurt until they're ready to play on their own while you tackle the next step in your task. Communication and boundaries are key. When you communicate your boundaries with your child that you'll spend time with them but then need to get back to the task, they feel like they're getting their bucket filled and can more easily transition when you need to get back to work. And bonus points if you let them know the next steps you need to complete before you can come back to them. You'll be surprised. Sometimes this will even encourage your kids to pitch in and help. The other day I was cleaning up and I had my list of checkpoints so that when my oldest wanted to play a board game, I was able to tell him that as soon as I finished this one step, I could play. We sat down and started our game with the siblings joining in. I let them know that I could play one game, but then I needed to clear off the desk before I could play a second game. And you know what? All the kids decided to help out. We were done cleaning the desk in just 2 to 3 minutes and could jump right into our second game because everyone pitched in without me even asking. Here's what happens when you set healthy internal boundaries. You stop expecting yourself to do 2 full-time jobs at the same time. Instead, you set yourself up for success because you have 20 mini tasks to complete in the grand scheme of achieving one big task. This gives you the flexibility to switch tasks more easily because each mini step is a task completed. You're no longer switching between an unfinished task. You are now able to close out the mini task and step unencumbered into the next role. This gives your brain a clear transition to shift more easily because it's not trying to multitask constantly. It focuses on one unfinished item at a time. And then you make that possible by breaking every task down into as many tasks as possible. This skill is one that will serve you well because it provides you with the opportunity to handle child interruptions more quickly, since the time it takes to complete a mini step is incredibly less than the time it takes to complete one giant step. You're basically turning your task list into a goal sheet where you break each goal down into micro steps. And that's awesome because you are giving yourself tons of wins all throughout your day with this strategy. And wins increase your self-confidence as a mom. Not to mention, it gives you a dopamine hit multiple times a day, which boosts your energy and mood. This is exactly what you need to end your day feeling like a good mom and creating an environment where you can successfully balance getting things done with connecting with your kids. Remember, creating boundaries with your expectations and setting micro tasks throughout your day are skills that are developed over time. Start small, but start today. You don't have to carry unrealistic expectations to prove you're a good mom. You don't have to earn your worth through constant productivity. And when you let go of impossible expectations, you make room for something so much more important: peace, connection, joy. Not because everything gets done, but because you created an environment of balance between productivity and connectivity. Being a good mom isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about faithfully loving the people God has entrusted to you while giving yourself the same grace He so freely gives you. One task, one moment, one day at a time. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Conquer Mom Stress. If today's conversation encouraged you, hit follow and leave a review. That lets me know that these episodes are hitting the topics you need. And while you're there, share this podcast with another mom who might need to hear it. Your thoughtfulness might just be what she needs to get through the day. Remember, this is your place to pause, rest, and start conquering mom stress, one small step at a time. Motherhood isn't meant to drain the life out of you. It's meant to be lived with joy, even on the messy days. And together, we're going to find that joy again.